There's a certain amount of pressure because what we've seen in the great coaches in college, when they decide to make the transition, and typically no matter where they go, in the first 1-2 years in college, you can get the program turned around. The big programs we've all seen turned around within 3 years. If you look at Nick Saban, what he did, look at Urban, what he did, forget about Florida, Ohio State, the big programs get turned around quick. He's got the program turned around. He just can't coach quarterbacks. Obviously, because he's got a bunch of kids that he has gone through, guys who had high marks in high school, and they came there. And also, he's got a bunch of guys who have transferred that he has not been able to get the productivity from the quarterback. Their defense has been nationally ranked a couple years. It's the best part of their team. Their quarterback struggle has prevented them from being able to perform in the big games. Also, your two rivals, Michigan State and Ohio State, you can't only win one game in 3 years against those teams. So he's 1-5 against the two biggest rivals.
All right, so listen, I think Harbaugh is better than his record has suggested. He takes over a 5-7 team. His first year he goes 10-3. That loss to Michigan State is after a bad snap on a punt. His second year, they are, I believe, a faulty spot away from beating Ohio State and being in the college football playoff. Last year was by Michigan standards, a disastrous year. You can't go 8-5, and they lost their final 3 games of the year, which is why this game becomes critically important. It's basically a pick-em at Notre Dame. If people glance at Michigan's schedule, what you're going to see is middle of October to early November. How about home for number 4 Wisconsin, at number 11 Michigan State, home for Penn State. Those are 3 games in a row. And then a couple weeks later, how about you go to the Horseshoe to play Ohio State? They have a brutal last 6 weeks of the year. You can't start off 0-1. Like, you just can't. So for Michigan's, they could because Notre Dame's good. It's on the road. It's a pick-em. But if they are going to have a chance at getting 10 wins, because 10 wins his first year was not nearly as impressive as 10 wins would be this year with this schedule. And as far as the quality of the Big Ten, with Penn State being back, with Wisconsin having arguably the best team Wisconsin's had in a decade. Like, this is a tough year in that conference, so you can't lose your rivalry game against a non-conference opponent in Notre Dame. I'm curious to see their quarterback. You said hasn't been able to coach quarterbacks at Michigan. He's got the best quarterback he's ever had. The transfer from Ole Miss.
He's got new coaches, a new strength coach this year, an offensive line coach this year, and you're still shaking your head.
They've been through a couple of strength coaches. They changed. They were with Adidas. Then they went to Brand Jordan. They've changed everything but that guy. All right? Like, they think Harbaugh was going to answer all the things. Harbaugh has been a disappointment in college football. Now, Nick might think it's cute. The guy shows up in khakis at a kid's house at midnight. Like, Michigan should have a good quarterback with Jim Harbaugh as the coach.
That has been a failure by him. I think they have a good quarterback this year. I also think he's Urban, Saban, in no order. Urban, Saban, Dabo, Chris Peterson. Those are, to me, James Franklin maybe as well. Your 5 best coaches. Well, that's what I was going to say.
We shouldn't even be talking about him, if you ask me. Because what has he done to prove it? And nothing. We're basing we're basing it on, man, he was a good NFL coach, and we give him credit for that. But he has not been a great coach since he's been at Michigan. That just happens to be the fact. Even if I had gone to another school, I wouldn't be saying, you know something, I think Harbaugh's done great in his 3 years at Michigan. No, he hadn't.
What I'm basing it off of, he's won everywhere he's ever been. Stanford now is a power program. It wasn't when he got there. He beat USC and that Pete Carroll dynasty.
How many years did it take him, though?
What?
How many years did it take him to get Stanford turned around?
What, 3 years?
He's past that time.
Okay, but Michigan was a bad spot away from being in the playoff in year 2 after being a disastrous situation under Brady Hoke. He got them turned around in 2 years. Last year was a down year. So the best coaches don't have him. I get it. He's not Urban. He's not Saban.
Okay, well, let's say that then.
I did say that.
Okay, there we go. I like that.
I said to me, there's 5 coaches that are clearly superior to him. But you can't say anyone other than that list of the truly elite 5 guys that are clearly better than him.
I do know some people at Michigan. I do know some people on the board of trustees, and they are not happy with the overall performance of Jim Harbaugh with his football team and some other stuff that's happened as far as recruiting, shenanigans, things like that.
They should be careful what they wish for.
Quickly, what would you consider a good season for this Michigan team this year? 10 wins and
10
what?
wins.
A win
What
over
about-
one of the rivals?
No, 10 wins is not good enough. You got to win your conference. Right? Would you like to say Jim Harbaugh, after 4 years at Michigan, you know what he hasn't won? He hadn't won the Big Ten. He could win 10 games, but if he does not win the Big Ten, it will be a failure. Those are the normal standard for Michigan men. He's not a Michigan man, so he don't know that, but that's the normal standard that they have.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.